Alright, so far, the MCU's Spider-Man films have been a little shy when it comes to personal tragedy. While we've seen Uncle Ben die multiple times throughout Spider-Man's long rebooted life, he seems nowhere to be found in the MCU so far. Now, this doesn't mean that he won't appear later on in the franchise, because let's face it here, Uncle Ben is DED dead in the MCU. But that being said, with all the Spideys slinging our way, there's a lot of chance that Peter learns the famous motto,
"With great power comes great responsibility,"
from an older Spider-Man like Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield coming from another dimension. Ever since the revelation that the multiverse will be an integral part of the MCU's Phase 4 with the arrival of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, rumors and theories have been spreading throughout the interwebs. Get it? Interwebs? No? Alright, of course, the quirky yet gloomy Disney Plus series WandaVision put more and more oil on this fire. For some, it was an interesting 9 weeks of theorizing, searching for clues within every single episode's openings, and imagining the future of the MCU. For others, it was a huge disappointment, as Mephisto never actually showed up, Evan Peters' Quicksilver was actually an actor named Ralph Bohner, but let's be fair here, it was never actually confirmed that he was not Quicksilver, and most of the show was just a bunch of red herrings loosely strung together. So, with the introduction of Madripoor in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Wolverine's Princess Bar making an appearance, I should just call it quits and stop hoping. And that's exactly what I won't do, because I clearly can't stop theorizing about this whole multiverse affair. So, okay, where does all of this madness leave our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? The last we heard of him, actor JK Simmons returned from Sam Raimi's Spider-Verse as J. Jonah Jameson at the end of Far From Home to out Peter Parker as the man behind the spider mask. Rumors about actors returning from both Raimi's and Marc Webb's Spider-Verses have been pouring in non-stop in the last year. From Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield to Jamie Foxx's Electro and Emma Stone's Gwen and Alfred Molina's Dr. Otto Octavius, the Spider-Verse has never been this populated live action-wise. And let me tell you, while there is a lot to unpack here, let's focus on the Spider-Man who will most probably make their way through the multiverse opened by the Scarlet Witch at the end of WandaVision.
I want Spider-Man!
Alright, let's start by discussing the Spider-Man that everyone wants to see join the MCU, Sam Raimi's Spidey, played by Tobey Maguire. While Spider-Man appeared in live-action form in the 1970s show The Amazing Spider-Man, it was not until the early 2000s, or 2002 to be precise, that Marvel fans got a taste of a Spider-Man film. It's true that Spider-Man 3 jumped the shark, and that at a very high altitude, Tobey Maguire nevertheless remains one of the most iconic live-action Spider-Man in the last 2 decades. So, if Marvel Studios are really serious about bringing the other Spider-Man, they clearly can't do it without involving Maguire in the upcoming Spider-Man No Way Home. But what exactly would this original Spidey's role be in the MCU? Well, for starters, I have a theory, or more like something I really want to happen, that Spider-Tobey will actually appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Since the director of the original Spider-Man trilogy, Sam Raimi, has been hired to direct what promises to be one of the darkest MCU films so far, it would only make sense that his Spider-Man be introduced somewhere along this journey throughout the multiverse. Now, I'm not saying that he'll have a prominent role in the film, but imagine for a second seeing Tobey in his Spidey suit face-to-face with Tom Holland during the post-credit scenes as they both point to each other stupefied. Of course, his role will have way more impact in the upcoming Spider-Man film, and could also be used as a catalyst to introduce Miles Morales into the MCU. But just like what happened to Miles as Peter Parker in his home dimension, all that would cost Spider-Tobey his life. Whether in the comics or in the films, Spider-Man's growth is linked to loss and grief, one that is usually attributed to the death of Uncle Ben. While Spider-Tom started to get a taste of that with the aftermath of Tony Stark's death, he was not responsible for the loss of Iron Man. So, Spider-Tobey could in some ways act as a sort of Uncle Ben when he dies, which would spark a change in Tom Holland's Spidey moving forward in the MCU, as his character has been rather childish so far. Phase 4 is all about grief and the consequences of the blip. Wanda came back without having time to grieve the loss of Vision, which caused her to spin out of control and create an ever-changing Westview inside of her Hex. And Sam and Bucky are currently both navigating their way throughout this brand new world, trying to find their true purpose after the disappearance of Steve Rogers' Captain America. So the arrival of Andrew Garfield in the MCU would be the perfect moment to explore the character's grief after the loss of Gwen in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. While Tobey could be used as a mentor to Tom, Andrew could be portrayed as a washed-up Spider-Man just like Peter B. Parker from Earth TRN-701, who redeemed himself by helping Miles and Into the Spider-Verse. With Emma Stone most probably returning as Gwen, this could mean that we'll get to see another Dimensions Gwen, but with spider powers. This could make things really interesting as it would introduce Spider-Gwen to the MCU, but also very confusing to Spider-Andrew. Look, to make it short, I believe that if Marvel Studios move forward with a live-action Spider-Verse, it would be the perfect occasion to have their Spider-Man grow into adulthood while continuing their exploration of the aftermath of the blip which seemed to have broken so many people, temporarily giving Earth a brand new world, one that the Flag Smashers are desperately trying to regain. Now, a lot of you seem to have loved Sharon Carter in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier's third episode. It's been so long that we haven't seen her that I forgot how much butt she could kick. In the comics, she was recently given the Iron Patriot suit, so I think it's time they gave her that shiny shield as well.